Nigeria has had a checkered political history of defection of party members from their various parties and groups. Let's try and recall one notable example back in history. In 1951, with the First Republic, when several members of the defunct National Council of Nigeria and Cameroon, NCNC, led by the late Dr. NNAMDI, AZIKIWE, decamped to the action group, that's AG, led by late Chief OBAFEMI AWOLOWO. Now, you might want to read about that. And some others as documented. Now, today, party defections is not just becoming a norm, but an increasingly worrisome permanent feature in the Nigerian political culture since the return to democratic rule in 1999 to date. Now, this characteristic is becoming, like we said, a great concern on the political landscape. Jumping ship, party switching, whichever name you call it, defection or crossing the floor, is mostly used when a politician has dumped his political party for another. Okay, when I say his or has now, because women too could do that. Now, the trend, how healthy is this for the political development of the country? Does it portend stability in any way for these political parties? Are there electoral guidelines or somewhere in the constitution to actually checkmate these defections? This is our focus on Nigeria today as we deliberate on party defection. Thank you for joining us. My name is Blessing Abu. Well, if you just tuned in, the program is Nigeria Today, and we're looking at party defection. Now, in the studio with me, I'd like to welcome, first to my immediate left, Hamzat Lawal. He's a Chief Executive for the group Connected Development, Code for short, and is also a co-convener for the movement Not Too Young to Run. I'm sure you'll identify with that. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Also joining us in the studio is Cynthia Mbamalu, Project Director, Youth Initiative Advocacy Growth and Advancement, otherwise known as YAGA. Welcome to the program, Cynthia.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, this is not one new slogan, party defection. You hear them just like I itemize. It could come with any other name that you know, as long as somebody's moving from one group to another. Maybe we should take it in perspective. What exactly do we mean when we say someone is defecting from one party?
Well, from my own understanding, it means that that person probably have lost faith or hope in his political party and then moving to another safe haven, another party that provides him an enabling environment to strive. But in a short sentence, to me, it's a political instability or someone who is actually experiencing what I call political short-sightedness.
All right. Cynthia, why should this attract any attention? You're moving. Why should it bother anyone?
Well, I think because if you look at our political system, you would see that parties, for one, they are the major platforms through which candidates emerge and through which we choose our leaders. And there's a very fundamental role political parties play in our democracy. Now, why this is a big worry is because we believe that party membership should be based on ideology, for one. And if you become a member of a party, it should be because you associate yourself with the ideas and ideologies of that party. But if you win elections on a platform of a political party and all of a sudden you're moving to another party, the question is, what do you represent? Because if once upon a time you represent ideology A and all of a sudden you're moving to ideology B, we should start questioning your position even as a candidate or as a representative of the people. And for us, for a democracy that is still growing, you know, we're still a developing democracy, it's important we start understanding the precepts, the principles of even political parties in a system and what they should represent and who members should be. And when you represent people in office, you win an election not as a candidate, but not as an individual, but on a platform of a political party. So if you look at it on a ballot paper, we vote for parties, no names are written on the ballot papers, right? So people vote for you because you belong to a party until we have independent candidacy. Parties are still the only way. So when you start moving, the question is, what do you really stand for? And if we can't identify what you stand for, then how do you represent the people in a democracy? So that in itself is questioning the strength of our democracy and even undermining the authority of the people who have voted you into power.
Okay. When we say we're committed to, well, you kept using the word ideology, commitment. Back to you, Amzed. I know for everyone who has joined a particular political party or group, it is with one unanimous voice. This is what we believe in. At what point do we see that the configuration of such is no longer holding strong, that make members move? What is it in the configuration of political parties here that is making members just to move at will?
Well, if you look at Nigeria's political landscape, it's not driven by ideologies. Because if it was... it's all of them. All of them. And I am talking about now the ruling party and the current opposition party. And really, do we actually have a strong opposition? But that's another case. But then if you look at the landscape, it's not driven by ideology. It's driven by... We're more focused on who are the individuals in the party rather than the political party structures. And that principles of leading that structure that delivers on the needs of and aspiration of the people that they hope to represent. But currently, what we're saying is, oh, this does not favor me personally, so let me go to another place and find a safe haven where they can give me what I want. So it's not about service delivery and service to humanity and his people, but rather, or her person, but rather it's about my own personal and selfish interests, which is quite sad.
People who have divergent views, definitely, within the same party. But if we have a common goal, can't that work?
Well, I think that is why there's a party constitution, right? And the constitution is the supreme document within parties. Now, the question we should probably start asking is, do members even understand and appreciate what the constitution of their parties say? Do they even know what their parties stand for? Because I think sometimes we get carried away with just individuals that are associated with particular parties without even asking them, what does your party stand for? And while you have divergent views within parties, the idea of having a constitution is that you know your uniting factor. You know what your party represents, and irrespective of divergent opinions, that thing that remains sacrosanct is what your party represents. But I think where we have the challenge is party members not even connected or united amongst themselves on what their constitution represents. So you see people moving from one party, and in another election they move to another party. So it looks like being a member of a party is just to run for office, and after you win an election, you want to move to another party you think may provide you a better opportunity to suit your vested interest. But that is not what it should be.
Where do we headquarter some of these clauses or some of this lack of focus? Because if the parties themselves are actually giving political education from time to time, not just election time, perhaps on the long run, do we have a sense of what members could actually understand, not just following those individuals, like you said, who make up such big parties or the smaller ones? Where's the missing link here exactly for members?
It's about the membership. I think, number one, the structure of parties. Do you have internal party democracy? Most times you look at parties, decisions are taken from top to bottom, not bottom to top. And if you even look at their constitutions, I've taken our time to read the constitution of the APC and the PDP, which are the two leading parties now. And you see they have a beautiful constitution if you actually want to look at the letters of the constitution. But the thing is, how many of them even understand what is in that constitution? And the way the decisions are taken within the parties, again, it's one of the challenges that we have within parties. That's why you hear people talking about lack of internal party democracy. But then at the point of membership, because when you register to be a member of a party, it means that you have access to the documents of the party, the legal documents and policies of the party. But how many parties have that structured system of registration? Because if we did have structured system of registration, at the point of defecting or moving to another party, there should also be another structure of re-registering people that defected and returned, or people that defected to another party. But we don't have that. So even though weak structures within the parties, when it comes to organs, the fact that members within the parties are not carried along. So what you have is decisions taken by a group of people within parties. So if you look at parties that are welcoming new members, it's always done at a rally, and it just looks like a group of people says, welcome to this party. What about the member? What if members are objecting that, hey, this person left this party, shouldn't be in this party? In fact, the PDP's constitution clearly provides that when a member defects and returns back to the party, that member will not be given the same status that he or she had in the party. Yeah, and there is even a period of probation for that. But the question is, how many people even know that you can actually enforce these sections of the constitution? And even the APC, it didn't have have a clear provision on when you return to a party, when you defect or when you come in, but there's also a provision that at the point of registration, at the ward level, you're registered, that you have your document, and then the registration is moved to the executive at the state level. But the question is, do we even follow that? The people that return to parties, or the people that are welcomed into parties, are they clearly scrutinized and then clearly registered and going through that process?
So weak structures, not making
poor implementations of the constitution. I think most times parties just blatantly disregard the constitution.
Okay, Cynthia, let's bring Hamza. Now, there are problems definitely associated with defection, which already it's a bother to so many people. You've just talked about weak structures, you just talked about other areas. Let's find out more of those problems and how actually this affects us. And even for young persons who want, because I'm glad we're taking this conversation today for future leaders, of course, for the not too young to run movements. It's one thing to actually say you belong to a structure and it must be solid. Now, what are those problems associated with defection with the members and within parties?
Well, you know, the exciting part now is young people are not carried away, because we know...
Sure about that?
Yes, we're not carried away. We know that these people are defecting and moving up and down because of their personal and selfish reason. But then how can we get it better? Internal party democracy, whereby we have to now do away with the delegate list.
Before we get to getting it better, I want us to itemize some of those key problems we've seen over time. Well, let's take it back to from 1999 till date. We've seen them in their droves.
Oh yes, and this has happened in 2014, just before the general elections, and now. And a lot of people will still defect. I think for us to get it right, we need to practice the true principle of democracy, whereby every voice, even the minority of the minority voice, must count in internal party democracy, where everyone would have equal right and responsibility. And of course, we know, as much as we always say we practice a multi-party society, we know that, yes, in paper that's it, but in principle, it's either between the ruling party or the opposition party. So for them to have that opportunity to catch younger people who are running for office, they need to ensure that all the minority group have a voice and a stake in the party and the principles of the party. And most importantly, what are the ideals of their party? Are they committing to education? Are they committed to basic healthcare needs? Are they saying that, oh, we want to create jobs? Because usually when you come as a flag bearer, the party brings their policy and say this is the agenda of the party. But after elections, everyone dumps that policy and then...
Which brings the mind to what people are actually saying, that most of the time we don't have clear-cut ideologies, like you have already pointed out, both of you. So is it that these ideologies are of little or no relevance to what politics is here?
Well, I think you already have the answer, because we are yet to get to that level of that level of maturity where our political culture is informed by our realities. Now the thing is, we have a system where it seems like we're still struggling to learn to even understand what democracy is, what it means to have a voice, what it means to go after policy. So even within parties, there's that level of confusion. You can't ask party members, you can't just pick a random party member and say, what does your constitution say? What does your party stand for? And let's look at, if you even look at governance itself, so the lack of continuity in government, in policies, is not always limited to when you have a different party taking over, because even when you have members of the same party win an elections, you don't see that continuity. So it shows that there is that lack of connection or connectivity between the ideologies of the parties or what parties stand for, and even candidates' promises and manifestos. So when you even see oppositions challenging ruling party, for instance, opposition's challenge are not based on what the parties stand for. It's more or less a battle of personalities or fight against personality, and not necessarily against policies, saying, oh, these are your policies, but you're not standing by that, and then making argument based on the policies parties themselves represent. So you'd see that we are yet to get to that point, and that is why candidates or aspirants within parties struggle so hard to emerge as candidates, and they will do anything. You hear people talking about vote buying. It's because there is so much focus on who would emerge as a leader. So there is lack of focus on the issues parties will be promoting. And when you feel you don't have that access to the ballot through your party, what you do is to look for another option where you can have that access. But the question is, what do parties do that make their members want to leave? And also, why do members struggle so hard to leave? Why that it's good to have an aspiration, but why that so much, that focus on trying to emerge as a candidate of a party? If party system work, I think more members would stay back. But also, if politicians have ideologies and ideas, they would not be moving from party to party because of elections.
Those questions you raised, why would members want to leave? Why should they leave in their numbers and all of this? So some of those questions our correspondent actually put out to some members of the public. We'll get to see that, and we'll return to what more we need to do. You're watching Nigeria Today. Party defection is our focus. Let's go to the streets.
Defection, I don't think we don't have we don't have anything to gain from party defection. And anybody among these people that defect from party, they have their own interest. It's a self-interest, selfish interest. They go there on their own to get what they want.
Not very healthy at all. It's quite embarrassing the way politicians are defecting. We have people who don't care about the welfare of the party. We have people who don't care about the welfare of the people. We have people who are selfish and think of themselves. Of course, why won't we have defections? That is not what politics is all about.
Nigerian democracy is okay. Everybody is happy with the way our president is going on. If you see politicians are jumping to another party, that means they are not benefiting from this party. And Buhari is not after stealing money. He wants to carry Nigeria to another different thing entirely that all the masses will enjoy. So if one or two people say they are leaving the APC, they can go.
You can't merge two companies together. You see structural defaults. But you can merge two parties together and they will still run smoothly. No structural problems. So it tells you that structurally, PDP, APC are about the same. So the politicians are not really defecting. They're just leaving their master's bedroom to the guest room.
You and I know the problem, actually. In as much as, if at all, the problem of this political problem affecting this generation is going to be solved, it has to start from a common man. But no matter how a common man tries, and if the politicians are not actually helping it out, because it's the main work, I think, is from them.
Great views from the streets. Well, defection by politicians. You heard some of those points we raised here already as expressed by members of the public there. Now, I like the Vice President said, moving from the party's bedroom to the guest room. How interesting. Now, perhaps, well, Cynthia has a copy of the 1999 Constitution. Perhaps we might, let's take a peek into what it says, or at least how it sums it up for us.
Well, I think it's just that argument on with respect to Section 68 and talking about how when members of the National Assembly or House of Representative or the Senate would lose their seat, and there's been a lot of argument on, okay, when members defect, then they can lose their seat in the National Assembly. But the thing is, the Constitution provides one of the grounds which you lose your seat is when you leave, defect to another party, which is not the party upon which you won the elections. But then there's a proviso that says, provided the party you're leaving, there's no internal, there is no internal crisis or a merger. So the proviso also enables people to easily defect. Now, the only thing is for you to go and challenge the defection in court, saying that, oh, you left the party, but the party is united. There is no division within the party, or the issue of merger, and that is a relative issue that can always be contested. But then the Constitution also makes no provision with a similar provision for the executive. So this is limited to the legislative house. It's not. It doesn't apply to the executive, the governor, or the president, for instance, or even the vice president or the deputy governor, as the case may be. So there is still that vacuum within, there's still that lacuna within the Constitution. And perhaps we need to clearly legislate on issues of defecting or cross-carpet or whatever we want to call it, to limit or reduce the tendencies of party members to want to leave and move to another party.
Okay, I know for several reasons, we talked about some. you get to hear, okay, you talk about people failing to get their party's nomination, maybe as flag bearers, or for some who felt disillusioned. I didn't get it quite right here. Let me see if the other party will offer me some other means. Now, this is becoming, a feature on the political scene, and we must change that narrative. You already started talking about what we should do differently. Now, what kind of commitment should we get politicians actually to do and give at different boards?
I think as politicians and as advocates, what's important is to ensure that we support to deepen internal party democracy. When you go to the state or even the ward level, usually who controls the ward levels are the councillors and the chairman. Then when you go to the state structure, it's usually the executive governor of the state. Then when you come to the national, usually the president of the country, if he's from the ruling party, he's a leader of the party, which means there's no one who checkmates their excesses. So as the leader of the party, he overrules the chairman of the party. You can't have internal democracy. It's the chairman that gave him the flag that he ran upon to become the president. So if we don't checkmate this, and the issue around who becomes the delegate, if we keep having that, then what you're saying is all the minority voices would not count. And that is going to cause a lot of cross-carpeting between people who are not happy with that system. As a card-carrying member of a party, you should be able to vote during primaries and ensure that even if your candidate lost, you added your own voice to that process. I think if we can get that right, and most importantly, we need to do away with money politics, because it actually starts from the party level. You have to buy forms, and the forms are very expensive. So usually when you see someone who have emerged and won election, they say, well, I've paid my dues, so now it's time for me to come and recuperate my investment, because that's how politicians see elections. They see it as an investment, so they bring in money into it and they recuperate. And then what happens is no development at all.
Another trend I want you to take a look at, Amzat, you get to see one supposed big man in that party, let's use the phrase like that as we commonly use it, and other members, whether they believe in what that person is doing, as long as, okay, is this person financing this particular party, I must follow, or we must follow. How healthy is that for even the party in itself?
Oh, that's not healthy at all, because what it means is there's no ideology, there's no vision. So all they do is follow one person who says line up and say, if the person says jump, they ask how high. And that's the entire, that's what we call money politics. And if we don't get it right with the structures and do away with money politics, what this means is we're going to keep having reshuffling of older generation of politicians, because they are the money bags, and for you to become a money bag, you have to be corrupt. So they corrupt the system, they corrupt the process, use the money bag to buy votes, and after getting the vote, they recuperate the investment by ensuring that all the contracts are either half done or not done at all.
So what do we see on the future scale? Because now that gives some kind of instability and imbalance to the system generally, for party system. What do you see on the long run?
I think they have a beautiful opportunity here. Today we have 67 million eligible young voters with their permanent voters card. And if you look at how this will sway, sometime during elections, you see that you only have less than 50% of people come out and vote. Why? Because most of the flag bearers of the party do not necessarily embrace the ideals and principle of this individual.
So we must begin to work on ideals.
Oh, yes.
Okay, for Cynthia, we must go now. Of course, there are a couple of elections coming around before the main election in 2019. And I know we want to change this narrative for people to stay put and put out something in form of ideology and good structure. What do we do differently?
I think I would be very tough on our political leaders, the political elite and politicians, because they have a major role to play in developing our democracy. And the more our system, the more the rot grows, it benefits a group of people benefit from. So there's this political economy that benefits from the lack of institutions working. And political parties and major institutions that need to work in our democracy. I think one of the things that must be very important, the issue of internal party democracy. Party leadership must invest in ensuring ensuring that their constitutions are upheld to promote internal party democracy. The other is to reduce the influence of money in politics. The trend of vote buying and voter inducement that even goes on before elections, we need to address that, because if younger people, if women want to contest and they go to the bigger party and they don't have that level of funds to compete, it means you automatically exclude them, and that is one of the reasons people feel disassociated with parties. And the other is for party members to start understanding and appreciating what their party stands for. If you're a progressive or a Democrat, like you want to call it, what does it mean to be a progressive? What does it mean to be a Democrat? Or if you belong to the newer parties, what does it mean to be a member of those parties? And they start asking for accountability within the parties. And when members defect and return to parties or defect to parties, ask your party leadership, why are you welcoming them? The party is beyond 2, 3, 4, 10 people at the rally. It has to do with everyone. The members of the parties should ask questions.
Because if you take the wrong people, you lose elections. Everybody wants to win elections. So let's get it right so that the right set of people win elections.
Well, sure, we'll get it right. Well, that's our chats on Nigeria Today. My guests have been Hamzat Lawal, from the Not Too Young to Run movement, also Chief Executive Connected Development Code for short.
Thank you.
I'd also like to appreciate Cynthia Mbamalu, Project Director.
Thank you.
We also appreciate you for watching. Let's do this again on Monday, 7:30 in the evening. My name is Blessing Abu. I appreciate you. And also you can watch this particular edition and any other edition at all online at www.youtube.com NTA News 24 Hub. Thank you for watching. Wish you a lovely weekend.